Hello. Hello. Can you hear me? Mr. Westbrook.
All right. All right. How about now? Nope. Nope. All right, so I'm trying something a little different. You guys should be able to hear me now. Can you hit me up inside chat? Can you guys got me? Yeah. All right, cool. Cool. So I am struggling this morning, guys, as you can kind of see through this. I am in Atlanta, Georgia. So I am coming to you guys remotely. Dave is going to be joining on here shortly, if he's not already. Not yet. He'll be here shortly, guys. So this week's going to be kind of cool because we're going into checkpoint 2. I did choose the coolest background at the hotel, so you're welcome for that. And yeah, I was planning to start a couple minutes early and just kind of go through. I've invited Chris. So Chris has been with me for a little bit, joins us on the make service work side. And I thought it'd be a good conversation because checkpoint 2 is, do they really need new or outside help? Which means, and if you guys are joining this on LinkedIn or something like that, the topic is like, how do you make sure that your customer doesn't take your proposal and do it themselves? So Chris, how often do you run into times where customers are making their own repairs? So you give them a proposal and they do it themselves.
It's not too often, honestly. In my experience, I've run into that mainly with owner-occupied hotels or motels, and sometimes with maintenance, maintenance staff. The biggest thing with that is I try to remind the maintenance staff that most likely their insurance does not cover them working on the roof, and it's really not worth the liability. And then I also stress the experience that we provide and the warranties. Standing by service repairs, warranty wise is very important. If you cannot warranty your work repair wise for at least a year, then it's not a quality repair. And that's why I stress, doing above and beyond and not just a bare minimum on a repair.
So deep into the process already. I was just high level, man. Going into a sales process, right? How do we qualify the customer? Not necessarily the features and benefits and all that big stuff, but how do we correctly qualify or even disqualify the customer to where they actually need outside help? They don't have the ability to do it themselves. They're on the other side of the United States. Or ultimately, maybe we just got a weird feeling that they've tried to fix it like 6 or 7 times on their own, and they're looking for a proposal from us. So what stops them from being able to do it themselves? And if you guys are joining the webinar, that's what we're talking about today is checkpoint 2. So yes, jumping through this, especially I'll say hotels and hospitality side, I do side with you on that, because a lot of times they have their own maintenance teams. And that's a big difference when we start talking about the types of customers that we work with. Customers, companies, industries, right, that has their own maintenance teams are probably much more likely to try to make repairs on their own. And this is probably something we need to pay attention to. Last thing we want to do is be able to go through the time, the effort, the energy of building a proposal simply to lose it, not to another contractor, but because the company did it themselves. So that's what we're going to be jumping through. A couple more minutes here. David has joined. It's so nice of him to show up at the exact time that he's supposed to be here. So we'll be getting him in. We'll see his beautiful face here shortly, and we'll get rolling, guys. So thank you for joining. Again, no reps left behind. Thank you. I am streaming this in a few different places. So if you guys have joined the Facebook group, that's absolutely fabulous. Thank you. If you haven't, I've been nice enough to throw the QR code in the upper left-hand side. So you can scan that with your phone and it'll take you directly into the Facebook group. I know we've done a decent amount on LinkedIn, so we're stepping in. And I don't know if I should do a round of applause or what, but thank you for joining us, David.
Hey, build a little anticipation, Actually,
yeah, it's more anxiety. It's more anxiety than anticipation, but that's fine.
Internet issues. So I had to go back to the main house in the torrential downpour. So got rained on. It's been fun, but it is good to know that you need me. It's good to know that that I at least bring a little bit of value here. So,
Mr. David,
perception's reality.
Mr. David, I am a avid wearer of black t-shirts, and I see you are too. However, after this meeting, Chad can show you that I took it up a notch and had some black on black sales alignment, make service work shirts made. I'll send you one in the mail, sir.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. God knows Chad isn't going to. Thank you, Chris.
That's right. That's right. You got to earn it. You got to earn it. So that's
right.
checkpoint 4. That's checkpoint 4. All right, guys. So here's the goal today. We're going to come in and we're going to talk about why proposals go dead, or why your customer ultimately does the work themselves. So if you guys have ever lost a proposal to the customer taking your proposal, taking your scope of work, doing it themselves, there's a way that we can disqualify. There's a way, and there's a set of questions that we're going to show you guys today that you can ask that ultimately puts them in the same checkbox as we did last week. So last week is, do they need to act, right? Is the problem big enough? So we're going to quickly go through that. We're going to spend most of our time on checkpoint 2. And then if we have a little bit of time, maybe we can throw Chris under the bus and make him do some role playing, some coaching, and show you that you can take a service manager and you can put them in sales with the right questions. So, Chris, hope you're excited for that. And that's why we invited you and also gave you the permission to talk.
Chris was unaware that he was going to be speaking on this call and is very hungry. So
there we go. All right. So let's get rolling. So no reps left behind, guys. If you guys are first joining this, or if you're watching this on some of the other channels we're streaming to, awesome. It is great to be able to have you guys on board. And like I said, we're going to be talking about how to correctly qualify or disqualify clients that possibly could be doing work themselves, or do they really need new or outside help? Or are they just looking for someone to be able to tell them what to do? So we're going to dive into that. We'll talk about those questions. If you've been on any of these, you've went through this. And if you're doing it again, I apologize. My name is Chad Westbrook. I'm the founder of Service Alignment, and then also one of the hosts of this awesome series that we're doing ultimately on the 4D sales process. So I've been inside the industry for about 18 years myself. All strictly commercial roofing with a very, very detailed side. I'll stay on the service side, and bringing this to you guys is absolutely awesome. I think my background on the commercial side speaks for itself, and I'm excited to be here. So thanks, guys.
Hey, guys. David Bonney, founder of 45. I've been in sales for 15 years, numerous leadership roles. I've written a couple of books. My main purpose is to push this industry, push our vertical and our craft forward. I do some fractional work for some fractional leadership work for a couple of roofing companies. So the key thing that we're doing here is the stuff that we're bringing to you is stuff that we're putting into practice. We are actively teaching this stuff. We are actively driving on these core concepts to ensure that our own teams are performing at the highest level possible. So just know that all this stuff is tested, it's proven, it's stuff that we absolutely believe in. And we want to give you guys a leap forward here, so you don't have to spend all the time figuring it out on your own. You can take the 15 to 20 years that Chad and I have already spent doing it.
Yes, all of our hiccups, our roadblocks, our speed bumps, wherever it is, this is what we're delivering. And David, you make it an awesome point there, because yes, we're using this every single day, right? This is not just something that we're coming up and trying to teach you a methodology. This is truly in process. And a handful of the individuals who are on with us today have been through that. And we went through the process and diving deeper into the questions in halftime. So I'm excited to have you guys here. And just know this is a 8-week series that we're jumping through. This is week 3 right now, and then going into that second checkbox.
All right, so guys, what we're going to do is we're going to take you guys through the second section here, the second checkpoint, like Chad was speaking about previously on the perfect buyer's journey. And the reason why we call it the perfect buyer's journey, for those of you, some of you guys have been on past webinars, but those that are here for the first time, some new names that we see. The key thing that we talk about often is buyer's intent. Why are potential buyers engaging with us? What is their intention? Well, they want to solve their biggest problems, causing them pain, keeping them from outcomes. We want to help them do that. So we're actually both on the same, we're looking towards the same outcome. And if we would just create a better buying experience and a better buyer journey for them, they will buy from us far more often than not. And then they're far more often than they're doing today, when we're trying to close them so that we can hit our quota. We want to be trusted advisors on the same team with them, taking them through a journey that helps them get clear on their plan going forward, We call that the perfect buyer's journey. And these are the 3 checkpoints that correspond to that. Do they actually need to take action? Is the problem bad enough? If they do need to take action, do they actually need outside help, or can they figure it out on their own or with their existing roofing company? And if they do need outside help, how do we establish ourselves as the best solution? So last week we went through, do they need to act? This week we're going to go through, do they truly need outside help? And we'll go through and discover based on that discovery process, we'll then be able to qualify or disqualify them. And you guys will have a clean pipeline. You won't wait till the 11th hour to find out, man, they didn't go with us because in this case, they just gave it to good old Bob, their maintenance man, to go figure it out himself. Or they stayed with their existing roofing company instead of getting bringing in a new vendor. Ooh, are you muted, Chad? And am I the only one that can't hear Chad? Can you guys get in the chat? You can hear me, Chad? He's yeah, so we've got, yeah, they can't hear you either.
How about now?
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Told you guys, Atlanta, Georgia, sitting at a hotel. So apologize for the backside. But what I was going to say is I have had probably 5 conversations in the last 2 weeks, specifically talking about how they were the low price and they lost the job. Okay. They were the low price. This is not about selling a price or a service or a product. This is about solving a problem. And that's ultimately what these 3 checkpoints do. So when we say discover and disqualify, that is what I really, really drive home, because it's a lot easier to be able to disqualify a client that maybe doesn't align to your business than it is to be able to take them through the entire process simply to cook the books and quote the job to never get it. Right? That wastes your time, that wastes your estimators, the guy who walked the roof, whatever other process you have that goes in there. We're talking about getting the best possible leads. We're talking about finding problems that you guys can very specifically solve, and you can position yourself as an expert in that. And you'll learn that throughout these series. But when we talk about discovery and disqualify, we're talking about finding the clients that truly have an issue big enough that they need to act. And today we're going to be going through that outside, who's outside, who needs new help. So let's roll. All right, 4D sales process, guys. So we went through first D, which is discovery, right? We went through those questions. We're going to be going through diagnosis today, finally demonstration, and then at the last part is decision. I'm jumping through. Sorry, guys, I'm moving faster. So discovery, diagnosis, demonstration, and we're doing all of this simply to be able to get a decision. So when we talk about step 2, checkbox 2, diagnosis, right? It's to determine the potential problem they're facing that aligns to what your company does well. Because if your company doesn't do that well, you guys are not going to be able to position yourselves as ultimately an expert at solving that problem. You're not going to have maybe case studies or social proof of your guys' success. And that's a huge part of building confidence in your customer, and then also allowing him to have clarity on how you guys are the best choice for him. So at the end of this, we always talk about, you don't have to ask for the sale. You should never have to ask for the sale if you position yourself right. And the diagnosis is a huge part of that. So there should be a bigger problem. And we've spoke about this in a couple other ones, but a bigger problem your prospect is currently not aware of, right? Because you're an expert. And what is it that problem is what you guys have to continue to solve. So the easiest way to be able to talk about this is a roof leak, right? Let's talk about a roof leak in a supermarket. They call me out, perception's reality. Customer has that problem, which is that roof leak. They call me out and they say, hey, the roof's leaking right there. Can you go fix it? As a trusted advisor, we need to understand truly what is the disruption to this. Why does that matter? Why does the roof leak inside aisle 3 matter? And as we continue to be able to teach you these skills and traits to do this, guys, you're going to understand that that roof leak gets water on the floor, which creates a slip fall hazard, which then creates ultimately an aisle that's closed off, which means people can't shop down it. Now, we're going to teach you guys, we're going to show you how to find this bigger issue. But what we're trying to do is truly give them information that's going to help them make the best decision for their building, the best decision to be able to solve their problem. And to be able to do that, we got to go a lot deeper than the roof. It's not about the deficiency on the roof. It's not about the water that's coming in. It's what's the impact that's happening when that occurs. Anything you want to add to this, David?
Well, I think it's we talk about it all the time. Great demonstrations or proposals get set up by good diagnosis. So the key thing that you want to make sure that you guys are focusing on with your diagnosis, with the diagnosis section of what you're doing is, how do you guys get clear on what you do and what you guys do better or different than everybody else that makes you guys, from a competition perspective, a clear favorite. The reason why you do that is because if there's some part of your process that differentiates you from the competition, you want to make sure that you're diagnosing, or your problems that you're diagnosing during this phase of the process already aligned to that. So you can get alignment with them on, here is the bigger problem. Here's what I'm diagnosing you with. So that when you do present your solution later on, you can clearly show them, and this is how we uniquely solve this problem better than anybody else.
Absolutely. All right. So we talked a little bit about this in the prior slide, right? So discovery, diagnosis, demonstration. Those are the 3 Ds that we're going to focus on in this training. However, the whole reason that we do this is to be able to help the client have clarity and confidence in making a decision. The one thing that I'll say is that if we do this right, if we do the 3 Ds correctly, it will position you as the best choice. It'll position you as the expert at solving the problem with the social proof to show I'm not just saying I'm the best, I can show you why I'm the best. So when we do all of this, we're doing this to be able to drive a decision. And decision can mean a couple different things. So number one, is the client going to make a decision? How many times, raise of hands, right? Or whatever we want to do as far as emojis, have you guys bid a job and nothing ever happened with it? And I'm not saying you lost it to another competitor. I'm saying that there was not a decision made, period. They never did anything. They never fixed the problem, right? That's what we talked about last week. Is the problem big enough for them to actually do something? Now, what we're going to go deeper into to be able to help support the clarity and confidence in that decision is talking about number 2. Do they really need outside help? And so many times I see this avoided because of the assumption that they've called you out there, because of the assumption that they've asked you for a proposal. You think, well, obviously they asked me for a proposal, so they want somebody outside to do it. That's not always the case, guys. And that's what we're talking about. Discovery and disqualify is what we're going to be diving through inside this. David, you want to take us through confirmation close, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. So the key thing that when we're looking at this stuff, guys, it's a question of, and I love this, right? Sometimes I'll be working with members of our team. They'll say, hey, Dave, so what do I do with such and such deal is at this stage? And they're basically saying that they're going to put it on pause. They're not going to do anything about it. What should I do? My first question is, did you establish the first checkpoint? Did you already confirm with them that this is a high priority? Because if you did not, now all you're doing is just trying to get them to do something that they don't want to do, something that you want them to do. And that's why I hate overcoming objections, guys. Overcoming objections it's the worst situation to be in. We already know what the objections are. We should be proactively overcoming those. And that's why we call it the confirmation close. I should already at the end of the deal be confirming with them a clear fact that this is a high priority for them and they are going to solve it, period. Because we got to a level of pain that is severe enough and it is clear to everybody that they can no longer go on putting this off or avoiding it. Chad?
So I wanted to get one point inside here, guys, because it kind of just rings my, it comes up. Conversation I had literally yesterday, right? It's like, okay, so what are the questions that you ask? It's like, I know the questions that are in my head that I'm asking, right? But it's based upon the conversation that's happening. And what happens, if you guys remember the first webinar that we did, right, to kick this series off, we talked about that 2 degrees of separation. Don't assume. That's the only thing I can tell you guys. Don't assume. Because if you don't ask the questions, right, even if it is hinted at, even if he's like, I get what's going to happen. And if he says that, I understand the priority from this. Don't be afraid to go deeper. Don't be afraid to probe, guys, because until he says it, until you guys are in that complete alignment of what's going on, you don't have alignment. So don't assume. We talked about priority level here, right? Client's going to put it on hold. Well, it doesn't sound like it's a priority if he puts it on hold. So what was the priority level? Well, it was a 9 to start. Well, he's putting the project on hold. So you tell me what type of individual puts a project that is one of the highest things he has to accomplish on hold. Something changed. It allows you guys to be able to go back into the sales process and say, okay, this was a 9. What changed? What took a higher priority, or what set this to the side? So again, we're not selling a product or a service. We are now becoming a trusted advisor to be able to help him get to that goal, help him solve the problem, not go in there selling a product or service that gets put on hold.
And then the last thing I'll say about this, guys, is we're going through each one of these that we're going through and confirming. You guys have to remember that they don't already know this information. They're irritated by something with the roof, and they're calling you out there. You guys unpacking this stuff through discovery and diagnosis is actually what puts it right in front of them and says, look, don't take this for granted anymore. Right? Like, stop doing that. We can help you. We're actually talking, Cody's on here. I was actually talking to one of our reps yesterday. And he's like, they've put this off for a year and a half, but now they got a big old hole in the roof. They're putting trash cans in the facility to get all of the water because they've allowed this to go on for a year and a half, right? And Cody just got the account, but the previous salesperson didn't go in and put it in front of them and say, don't do this. So that's what we're doing here, guys. We're trying to ensure that we unpack the information and make sure that more people are taking more timely action to better improve their own lives. We're going to go through, we're going to confirm. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to make a smart aleck joke. I think everybody's got that client. Everyone knows that client that Cody's talking about because they've ignored it for X amount of months or years, right? So it's like, again, go back to the checkbox, guys. Don't assume.
Yep. So we go through and we say, okay, we're going through the close. We're going to drive them to a decision. Can I just confirm that this is still a high priority for you guys? Yes. Next one. Okay. Can I confirm that you guys need new, let's just say, you guys need outside help. Let's say they don't have a current roofing vendor. They're just using internal maintenance people or whatever it is. Can I confirm that you guys still need outside help to be able to actually solve this issue because you guys haven't been able to figure it out up until now? Yes, we need outside help. That just clears the way, guys. It clears the way now for a clear decision to ask them 3 questions. Are we still aligned on the problems, the bigger problems that need to be solved? And are you clear on how we're going to solve them better than anybody else? Are we still aligned on the expected outcomes? And now that you know the price, is the expected ROI sufficient? And if that's true, are we the right solution to get you to your expected outcomes? And it's a very clear yes or no answer that you drive, no maybes. You drive them to a yes or a no. More maybes kill deals than almost anything that I see. Right? It's just like, it's crazy because we don't want to be too aggressive, but we also, so how do we, you don't need to toe the balance. You need to take them through a thought process, the confirmation close. You're confirming information that you've already gotten, and we're driving them down to a yes or a no. And if it's a no, okay, where were we off? This is just a logic chain, guys, and this should lead them right to a clear decision. And if it is a no, you'll hear it in a pause or some issue before you actually even get to the last question in those orange boxes. And that'll give you the opportunity to dive in and figure it out instead of having them just go ghost on you, go dark, and you have no idea why you guys have lost the deal.
All right. So this is the buyer's action plan, guys. So everything that we're talking about today and in this entire series is outlined right here. So we have the slides, we have all that kind of different stuff, but the only thing that matters is if you guys truly take this and utilize it, right? Take it inside the field, ask the questions, find your flow on how you turn these questions into a conversation. So this is all outlined. So again, we have this. So what I get a request to you guys, this is my challenge to you guys. I'm giving to you early in this. I want you guys to go through your entire book of business, and I want you to figure out, right, what is the priority? What do they need to actually act? That's my challenge to you guys. So go through your existing book of business, look at all of the opportunities you have, and ask yourself, do they actually need to do this? Whatever you come back with, start your priority list. That's the first step inside cleaning up your book of business, is to be able to go in there, be real with yourself, be honest with yourself. And then once we get further along inside that, you guys will be able to clean that book of business up. And again, increase the close rate, qualify, right? Disqualify. We'll go through that. So the challenge for this week, guys, do they actually need to act? Next week, we're going to come in, you guessed it, we're going to go to that next one, right? Do they actually need outside help to be able to help you clean that book of business up? All right. So yeah, we already talked about this. Checkpoint 1.
That's this week, right?
What's up? That's this week. That's this
Yeah.
week. That's today. That's as soon as this meeting ends. That's going to be my challenge to you guys. So I'll bring it up at the end, but that's my challenge to you guys is start cleaning that book of business up, make it real, stop tagging along the people who never respond to you, and we'll start going through that a little bit deeper. So we talked about checkpoint 1. That's going to be the homework for this week, right? We learned about it that last week. We're going to recap it and we're going to keep moving on, right? Checkpoint 2, checkpoint 3. So last week, do they need to act, right? So we talked about that. Do they know why they're in the meeting? That's number 1. When people typically sit down with somebody, a roofer, right? A roofing salesman, it's not because you like talking to me. There's a problem or a goal that you're trying to achieve. That's question 1. That should always be question 1 because the best questions will allow your client to answer. No one wants to pitch. No one wants to hear about the roofing company, right? We're working through that. Number 2, are the decision makers
present? I can real quick, Chad.
Yeah.
These are the questions, guys. Do not assume this. When Chad is asking you to go through your existing pipeline, go grab each deal in your pipeline. And we need you guys to ask yourselves these 4 questions and do not make assumptions. As soon as you say, I think this is the answer, you don't have the answer. And you need to go back in and you need to figure it out. So these are the questions. The first question, what's the problem that they were trying to solve? Or what's the goal that they were trying to achieve that made them even talk to you or connect with you to begin with? Just want to make sure that that's clear. He's going to give you the 4 questions right now that you need to vet and audit your existing deal flow through.
Yep. So we're going to do it. I also don't accept if you say first, which I say every 3rd word, but I'm not going to accept that from you guys. If someone was to ask you a question, you're like, nope, not good enough. It needs to be clear, right? If it's not clear to you, it's surely not clear to them. Number 1, do they know why they scheduled the meeting? Number 2, are the decision makers present? Who has the authority and responsibility are 2 completely different things. Someone who has the responsibility to obtain bids is completely different than someone who has the authority to sign the contract, execute it, and spend the money. Now, sometimes they are the same person, and I'm completely cool with that, but you guys need to define that. Who has the responsibility for for getting the proposal, solving the problem? Who has the authority to be able to sign off on it? Who has the ability to be able to spend money? If it is not the same person, you are selling to 2 different people. If they're not both involved in that. So bring them both together because the person who's buying might say, you know what, I need this under $5,000 so it doesn't go to our capital expenditure. The guy who's getting the proposal says, I would like this whole roof never to leak again. 2 completely different worlds, guys. So always make sure that they're both together. Do you have all decision makers present? Have they tried to solve this before and failed, right? So this goes right along. Are you using another contractor? What have you done inside the past? Really diving into that pain. So have they tried to solve it before? If the answer is yes, what did they do? Don't be afraid to say, hey, do you care if you share some supporting documents with me? You get a couple things. Number 1, you get to see what they did. Number 2, you get to see the documentation. If you guys are using some type of third-party system that gives awesome before and after photos, it gives you an opportunity to understand maybe where some additional value can come inside your proposal, right, that you're delivering. Is what you can bring to the table. So have they tried it before? If so, have they failed? Figure that stuff out so you're not proposing the same exact thing that they've already tried and failed. And then lastly, are they clear on the worst possible outcome if it's not solved? And that is not having to pay another contractor. That is not the worst possible outcome. What if this leak continues, right? What if it continues to be able to get water in here on the server room? What if it continues to destroy product? What does that mean? Find out those questions, guys. What is the quantifiable? What is the measurable outcome to that if something was to continue to happen, right? I kind of butchered that, but are they clear on the worst possible outcome if it's not solved? Make sure that's measurable, right? It can be emotional, it can be painful, they can be mad, but what is the measurable outcome, right, if that happens again? Anything you want to add to that, David?
No, guys. And the last one is, do they need to act? Use that scale of 1 to 10, guys. Just get calibrated with them. Don't make it hard. Don't assume. And the last thing I'll say in another group where we coach, we had a brand new rep come in and he was like, dude, like I started implementing the process and it's amazing how it's reduced the friction. I cannot tell you guys how much friction you guys are getting from your prospects because they're just, it's because you're taking them through a process to try to close them instead of trying to help them. Just start trying to help them and the friction will go away. They're gladly going to answer. The vast majority are gladly going to answer all of these questions because it's a part of creating a plan of success for them. But it's this random, disconnected, conversation, this rapport building, manipulative tactic or approach that too many salespeople use that make them put up their guard. Just stop doing it and they'll stop, just like we do when we go to a doctor. We're more than happy to allow them to help us. Okay. So get out of your head with that. Just start asking the questions.
All right. Today, we're going to be talking about checkpoint 2. So you guys got your homework, you got your challenge for the week, right? Which is to start cleaning that book of business up. What we're going to be training on today is checkpoint 2. So checkpoint 2 is, do they truly need new help or even outside help? There's a lot that can go through that, but typically what you guys are going to see is objections or responses like this. We're holding off. I think we're going to push it to next quarter. We don't got the budget for this. I appreciate you putting the proposal together, but it just didn't fit inside the budget. We're going to see maybe next quarter if we can do something different. You know what? We actually chose to stay with our current vendor that we have right now. And then other than that, they just plain lie and say, you know what? Nope, we went with someone else. Or even worse than that, they don't respond, right? They don't tell you that they did it themselves. They don't tell you that they tried it themselves, and you never hear from them. And the worst part as a sales rep, guys, is I see so many times, these are the opportunities that never leave your book of business. They stay in there because you had this amazing meeting with them, right? And you did all this amazing conversations and discovery, and then all of a sudden it went blank. And most of the time it's because we missed this part of the sales process. So what happens if you guys are getting this, we're holding off, we don't have the budget, we're going to stay with our current vendor, or maybe they just went silent and they're not responding to you. They're not responding via email. They're not responding via text message. They're not responding when you go to their building. Something's going on. I promise you that, right? So asking these questions up front, asking these questions as we're going through the 3D sales process is going to help you get better at discovery and then also disqualifying. So first question. Are they currently using outside vendors? Are they currently using other vendors to be able to solve this? This is a massive question. This is sometimes an uncomfortable question, but it's only uncomfortable if you make it uncomfortable. Because if you're trying to help someone, think about going into a doctor's office, right? And you're seeing 3 or 4 doctors. Well, of course, you're going to have conflicting information because you have 3 or 4 different people trying to tell you. You are not going in as a contractor. You are not going in to sell a product or a service. You're going in to be able to help them solve a problem or help them get to a goal. We talked about mindset inside the first one, guys. That's massively important for you to understand. Separate yourself from being a contractor. Separate yourself from being a commodity. Because when you know that you're going in to be able to help solve a problem, it makes it a lot easier to ask some of these questions and become a trusted advisor and not fall inside that commodity pool of other contractors.
Yeah. And I love it when you hear do they have another vendor, Chad? And it's like, I don't think so. They didn't mention that. What? What do you mean they didn't mention it? We're just waiting to see if they flippantly talk about it.
See, that's not common. The answer is always yes. The answer is always yes. And I say, oh, who is it? And they're like, oh, he didn't tell me. It's like, we didn't even go deep enough, right? It's like, I would love to be able to know who it is, because then maybe I can have some background of things that I've seen inside the past. Again, we're not going up to beat another contractor at selling a product or a service, guys. We're going in to be able to solve a problem or help them get to a goal as a trusted advisor. Step out of that contractor world and step into being helpful. That's what we're trying to tell you guys. That's the key to all of this, right? We're giving you the questions. You're here to be helpful. You're here to help them get to that goal.
Solve their problems. Yep.
Yes. So problem diagnosis, guys, are we aligned to the actual problems that need to be solved? So in checkpoint 1, we talked about the worst thing that's going to happen. But that's what we're doing, guys. We're helping prevent them from having to go through the worst thing possible, right? Which is not having to buy it again, buy it a second time. It's the impact to the business, the disruption to the employees. Maybe it can be tenants that are moving out, tenants who are not going to pay rent, tenants that are going to sue your client if they don't get it right. As a trusted advisor, that's what we're trying to do, guys. We're trying to figure out, how do we help our client win? That's where our head needs to be. So are we aligned to the actual problems that need to be solved? It's not a roof leak. It is never, ever, ever, ever a roof leak. And if it is, the problem's not big enough probably for them to take care of it, because it's a lumber yard or something like that, where it's like, yeah, I don't know. Okay. That's number 1. So what are the bigger problems? And David, I'm going to let you take this, because I think you do a fabulous job talking about bigger problems to jump through this.
Yeah. And again, like I mentioned at the top, guys, this is not the problem that they think is going on. This is, yeah, we have a leak and, I think it's this, or no, who cares? It's like, if you go to the doctor and they're like, why you're here? Oh, well, because, this is going on. I went on WebMD and I think I have this. They just look at you like, what are you talking about? Let me do my thing. I will go through, I'll run my tests and I'll tell you what's going on. Okay. So that's what we want to do. Too often it's like we just establish the problem that they're looking to solve. And then that's where you get this little teeny tiny surface level problem that then creates price sensitivity. It creates a huge issue in your proposal because now your proposal is like overblown. There's bigger, there's all this stuff going on there. Like, well, I wasn't expecting all this. I'm checking out, right? We need to start to understand what are the bigger problems that need to be solved on the roof. Okay. And we want those.
David, you make a great point real quick. And I don't want to lose it because I know you're going to go into some great stuff, guys.
Anytime
David
I make
talked
a great
about
point, you can call it out. Just call it out anytime, Chad. It's just,
he's words of affirmation. Yeah. He's words of affirmation. So you tell him good job and it's completely buckets filled. So what David said was WebMD. Right? They go on WebMD and they find out what's going on. Then they go to the doctor and tell the doctor what's going on. You guys, I hope everybody here knows what WebMD is for roofing. It's YouTube, guys. Right. They go on Google, they go on YouTube, they see how to fix it, and then they know what's going on. Why is my roof leaking? What type of deck do I have? They can do all of this research. There's more information online than you can probably ever give them. So it's not about just giving them information. It's about helping them solve their problem. So I want to say that because that is massively, massively important for you guys to understand that there's times when you walk into situations and they think they know more than you know. So you have to find a way to add value and make the problem unique. And we'll talk about that as we jump down.
Yeah. And ultimately, you guys do that by getting a clear understanding of what your company does that's special. What's the special sauce that separates you from the competition? If it came down to it, why would the CEO of the company go to a potential building owner and say, are you crazy? You chose Acme Roofing Company? They're going to screw everything up. You guys needed this or this. And that's what we do. And that's why it matters that we exist, right? Those are the key things. The special sauce and what you guys do needs to be aligned to the bigger problems that you diagnose for the prospect. Because like we said before, that creates the continuity between the discovery and the demonstration side of it. That diagnosis, we went through and discovered, I diagnosed it, and now I'm going to show you how we solve that problem. Without alignment on that problem, on that bigger problem that they're not aware of because they're not experts, because you two can't give them that level of diagnosis, you're going to create confusion in the proposal phase.
All right, so I'll run with this one. Are the expected outcomes enough to fund a solution? So this is ROI, or return on investment. And if you guys haven't spent much time on this part of your sales process, I'm going to really, really, really urge you guys to be able to step into this, because ROI, return on investment, is not necessarily the cost of your proposal. Return on investment is ultimately the outcome or the revenue, whatever the measurable metric is that your client gets from solving this problem. So if we're talking about a hospital, true story, we've been in this situation where we had a hospital that had a leak within the surgery rooms upstairs. Well, what is the measurable outcome, right? We already talked about what's the biggest problem that can happen. Well, they don't have enough emergency rooms. They get overbooked. They have to turn people away. Now they're going to a different hospital, right? So what is the metric of that? What's the measurable, outcome to be able to say, is this problem big enough for you guys to spend money to fix it? So when we start talking about that, so what business disruptions occurs, right? So it's like, well, when it comes inside there, it's a roof leak. It can possibly get on that person's desk. And I guess if the ceiling tile falls, maybe it destroys their computer. Well, what ripple effect does that cause? If you guys were in the last one, we talked about that ripple effect, right? That if it's the initial impact is the ceiling tile falling, hitting that desk. Well, what impact does that have? If that's accounts receivable, does accounts receivable go down for that day? Does she have to move somewhere else? Or all of a sudden you're shifting desks around, or she's working inside the, you have a roof leak and now she's working in the cafeteria or whatever it is. That's all business disruption, guys. That's all lack of efficiency, having to move that stuff around. So talk to that. And then finally, what's the cost of this inside a measurable outcome? This is really where we need to dive in, guys. What's the measurable cost of this emergency room not working, right? What's the measurable cost of you turning away somebody?
Yep.
This is where it can get really fun having a conversation. I say fun because it's exploratory to be able to say, okay, what if that ceiling tile fell? What if it fell on her and she hit her, you know, that ceiling tile hit her? And then what would happen? This is not yours to define. So let me be super, super clear on this. This is you guys asking questions to be able to get deeper into what the real issue is. Again, it's never the roof leak, guys.
Right.
What is the real issue that's happening? What is the measurable, right? If this was to happen, that's what we're ultimately trying to prevent.
And the great thing is, guys, there's not 100 different things, right? You got ruined product, ruined inventory. You've got loss of productivity. You've got potential slip, fall, litigation, legal issues. You guys can add a couple of more there, but there's a core set of financial issues that are attached to this that you can see where the breadcrumbs are going, and you can lead them right there because they're not thinking about this stuff. Okay. And I can promise you guys, we call it price anchoring. As soon as you guys start doing this, soon as you guys start getting ROI, you are going to see far, yes, 3 fars, far less of your prospects balk at pricing by calibrating them to a bigger number. They're going to look at your price when it's time, and the sticker shock is going to be gone. Yes, this might seem difficult, but this is invaluable if you guys can dig in and start figuring out how to lead them to this measurable cost, or basically the next slide, the negative repercussions if they don't solve this. So that's ultimately what we're talking about. What's at stake? What are the negative repercussions or the recurring impacts of this problem? Right? Are they bad enough that they need to solve it right away and not have a half-assed solution come in?
So the question here is, what happens if you make the wrong decision? What happens if you choose the wrong solution or the wrong service or the wrong proposal? What happens? What you're doing is asking your customer how important this decision is, right? And at the same time, you're creating clarity with this, because what's at stake? What's going to happen if you choose the wrong contractor? They don't fix it right, and then you have to come back and do it again. What's at stake? Don't be afraid to ask those questions, guys. Don't assume, and get in there and be able to again, help the customer, help them understand what's going on. So, do they have adequate budget? This is a huge one, guys, because when we're talking about money, it can be very awkward to be able to say, well, how much do you have budgeted for this? And then instantly your customer locks up and says, I'm not going to tell you how much I have budgeted for this, because they're afraid that your proposal is going to come exactly in at the number that they told you, right? That's lack of trust. That's putting up the shield that David talks about, right? Do you have an adequate budget to be able to overcome, or to be able to do this? Which there's 2 ways that people buy, right? Reactive or proactive. Reactive means I don't buy something until something goes wrong. These are the people that call you when it rains, okay? And they only call you when it rains. And if you put together a proposal for them, they never award it, because you know what? It's not raining, it's not leaking, we're good. So, right? So they just reactively purchase. Then you have your proactive individuals, which ultimately make decisions in order to be able to prevent problems from happening. These are the only 2 types of clients that you have inside your business. And if you guys haven't taken your customers and truly define them as reactive or proactive, I'm going to recommend that you guys do it, because it can be a very good way to be able to segment clients based upon what the weather's doing. If it's dry out, there's no reason to be able to call the customer who tells you we only buy in a reactive state. Now, it doesn't mean you can't help him be proactive. It doesn't mean you can't give him options to be proactive, but it allows you to be able to understand maybe the communication or conversations that you should be having with the right people. So reactive, do they normally have a budget for problems like this? That's my first question. I'm not asking what it is. I'm asking how they typically go about buying this. So do you guys have a budget for when problems like this pop up? And they might respond with, no, we just go ahead and we take care of it internally. He might be super cool and say, you know what? Nope, anything under $5,000 can run through me. That's what I have the ability to be able to do it. Your second question, do they handle them just as they pop up? This is a question. I was actually on LinkedIn going with messages, and I was looking at some of the conversations that were going back and forth. And one of the sales reps said, Okay, so you wait until there's water on the floor to call a roofer. And the guy literally responded with, "Yup, pretty much," exact words. And it's like, it doesn't get any more clear than that on where that customer is going to value your service, right? It doesn't mean you can't problem solve, doesn't mean you can't get him to a goal. But what it means is that the pain has to be bad enough, and that pain to him is water on the floor. So ask those questions, use that data, right? And then finally, do they want to be more proactive? And proactive is one of the most logical ways that you can spend. Reactive is one of the most expensive ways that you can spend. And not just because of the invoice that you get from the contractor that goes out there, but it also every single time typically destroys something. So it destroys product, it destroys production, whatever it might be, it's disruptive to that. Which comes back to checkpoint one. Is the problem big enough for them to act?
Yeah. And this is the stuff, guys, where you'll be shocked. We go into new companies and we start doing this. The reps that are good at this stuff are invariably the reps that everybody else on the team says is getting the best leads. Who's getting the best leads? I mean, I don't, the manager, the CEO favors you, the manager favors you, whatever. No, that's not the case. You turn them into good leads. You turn them into people that want to be more proactive in their roof maintenance as soon as you unpack the cost of this problem, as soon as you unpack all of this information. So, right, it's full accountability here. And we told you guys we're going to tell you the truth. The vast majority of your issues are not your prospects' issues. Your issues are your issues. And your prospects would be responding to you in a completely different way if you start to approach your conversation differently.
Yep, 100%.
Tough
So
love.
last question inside here, gap ability. Do they have internal resources to be able to solve this? So on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your guys' ability to solve this without anybody? Do it yourself. You don't need a contractor. You're just going to go do it yourself. What is your guys' ability? Now, we're asking this question because it's a confirmation question, guys. We're trying to understand what is their ability to be able to do it. The response might be, oh, we have no way to do this. We're based in California. We don't have anybody on that side of the US. Or the answer could be, well, we've tried to fix it a few times on our own. We just haven't been successful, and we're looking for someone to be able to come in and help us. Asking this question, right? And then I would say put it inside of 1 to 10, guys. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is your guys' ability to be able to solve this? And I say this with the most respect to everybody. Shut up at that point. Let them answer the question. Don't fill that void. Because again, what we're trying to do is eliminate those maybes. Eliminate the, well, you know what? It's just sealant and fasteners. We can probably do that ourselves. It's a lot easier to be able to have that information, understand that information, so you guys, again, can be the best possible solution for getting the client to his goal. You want to take this?
Yeah. So now that they know the actual problem and the potential cost of that problem, it's going to change their frame. This is a bigger issue. I need to stop piddling around with it. Right. So we've primed them for this with the questions and answers that have led up to it. And ultimately, why can't they solve it on their own? And we want to ask them that. Based on everything, how come your maintenance people haven't been able to figure this out on their own? Be direct. They're not going to balk. Well, because they just don't know what they're doing. They just don't know what the problem is. Right? Whatever it is, make them freaking say it. Okay? Because we ultimately just need to understand, do they really need to go outside of their current resources or not? Do we need to waste their time and ours any more after this? Or can they just figure it out? Again, like a doctor would say, look, you don't need surgery, right? Just heat, ice, ibuprofen, you'll be fine. Just go ahead and do that. You send them on their way. That's completely fine, because then you can make time and room for the next deal that you can go search out, that you can go get into your pipeline. But understand it, and don't wait for the very end where you've wasted everybody's time and hope, oh my God, that's what you guys are doing. I hope it's going to close. Stop. Hope is not a strategy. Take control over it. Understand the information. If they're going to take action, they have one of 3 choices: to do it themselves, to use somebody they've already used in the past, or to go with somebody completely new. It's it. This is logic, guys. This is not opinion. This is straight psychology and logic. They're the only 3 choices. And we're going to go through and figure out why those solutions haven't worked, because if they coulda, they woulda, and they wouldn't be talking to you. 9 times out of 10, you guys are going to be able to figure it out that their ability to solve this is low on that scale of 1 to 10, and it's going to be staring them in the face. I got to figure this out.
Clarity and confidence. Again, the questions that are here, and we can say it here, we make it seem really simple, right? But the reason that we're saying that this is so important is clarity and confidence, and not clarity and confidence for you, clarity and confidence for your customer. Because a lot of times they need clarity on what the problem is. They're bringing you in because it's fuzzy for them. They don't have the ability to do it. They don't understand what's going on. They know where they need to be, which is whatever, X is, but they need a guide. They need someone to be able to help get them to that point. And that's where you guys come in. So you are there to be able to ask questions. You are there to be able to be inquisitive and sometimes challenge maybe the choices that they've made or who they've used or what they've done. But being able to do this is only going to put you in a position as an expert. And sometimes the most powerful thing that you can do is not necessarily disagree, but provide input based upon what needs to happen. It doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they say. You guys are there as a trusted advisor and to make sure that the outcome of using you gets them to their goal. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't bypass the questions. It may be awkward, but trust me, the more that you guys say it, the more that you guys get used to going through these questions, is the better that you guys are going to become at making it a flow, turning it into a conversation, right? And hopefully a conversation that's fruitful for both sides. You guys got to practice it. You guys got to use the questions, and you can't avoid it. Don't skip the questions, because that's going to get you that 2 degrees of separation, which is going to put you in New York and your client in DC.
And last, like we talk about all the time, each one of these should connect. I was talking to a rep about this, a new rep about this this morning, actually. Don't practice during the game. Use this stuff and get with somebody and role play. Don't just stumble into sales conversations and start trying this stuff. What are you doing? We don't practice during the game. Practice in between games. And then when it's time for the game, you're ready to go. Practice makes perfect. So practice this stuff, and this stuff should connect. So what is the bigger problem that they're currently not aware of? We figured out that they need to take action. What do they need to take action on? Here is the bigger problem. What are the expected outcomes if those problems are not solved? If they can't figure out how to solve that problem that they weren't already once aware of? Then from there, what is their typical budget to solve problems that cost that much? What does that look like? And the last and obvious question is, why can't you just solve it yourself? Or with the vendor that you've used in the past? Very logical, and they should flow then into one another. Bring in context of the previous question. So I know you said this, but let's really dive deeper into that. Why ultimately can't you guys figure this out on your own, do you think? Why do you think that roofing company ultimately can't get this fixed a year and a half later? And now that you have a meteorite hole in the size of your roof where you have Rubbermaid trash cans all over the place, right? Like, what in the hell is going on? Bring that context in. It'll flow. But practice this stuff, and don't practice it in the mirror. Don't practice it with yourself. I mean, that's better than nothing, but that's still not good enough. You need to role play with people on your team. Have them pick a prospect or a customer that they know well, and have them be that person and go through the questions and start to get in the flow and understand what you're asking, why you're asking it.
That's a huge part. So guys, we went really deep right into this checkpoint 2 of what needs to happen here, but it really comes down to this, right? What's the bigger problem that you're not aware of? What's the expected outcome, right? If we were to solve those problems, what is it that would make you spend money? What's so great at the other end of this rainbow that you're trying to get to? What type of allowance or what type of budget do you have to be able to get to that point, right? Because someone comes in and wants to buy a car, a Kia and a Cadillac, or 2 completely different cars. Both will probably get you to the same destination, probably about the same time, especially if you follow the speed limit. So what is it that's so great about this that's going to give you that self-fulfillment? It's going to get you to the goal. It's going to solve a problem. Maybe it's going to get him a promotion. Figure it out, guys. Go deep, get personal, right? Figure out what's going on with all of this. And then the last question, which to me is the most powerful one, and it's almost just like an inquisitive, humbling question. Why can't you guys just do this on your own? Oh man, we're not allowed to. We have an insurance policy. We can't get up there. I mean, all kinds of different stuff. I've asked this question and I've went into a 20-minute conversation about how that individual got into a jet ski accident, had to have surgery on his hip, and no longer can climb ladders. 100% true. But do you see how that one question took me into a completely different category than a roofing contractor? Now we're having conversations about a jet ski accident and we're in a whole different side. This is how you create relationship, guys. You ask good questions. You dive into this. You're not afraid to be inquisitive or challenging or be able to ask the questions that's going to make him say it. Don't be afraid to say it. We're here for clarity and confidence, right? Clarity on what the problem is, confidence that you guys are the right solution with the proven background, the proven social proof, the proven metrics to be able to say, when customers work with me, this is what they typically get. When customers have our service, right? Or when we service customers, this is what they typically experience, right? This is what they see as a future goal. Have that. We'll help you build all of that. The one thing I do want to say before exiting this is that we do have a few individuals that are not specifically from the roofing side. And I think that's absolutely fabulous. So for those of you, thank you for kind of converting all of this as we talk about roofing. But what's the bigger problem that they're currently not aware of, right? Because whatever it is that you're selling, they're coming to you because you have something that ultimately can improve their life, improve their business, right? So do they have a problem or a goal? It's the same exact checkpoints that you have. Is it a problem or a goal that you're trying to achieve? And once you figure that out, that allows you also to become that same trusted advisor. So whether we're selling, whatever it might be into roofing, into plumbing, into HVAC, whatever it is, the same methodology, the same process can be used, guys. All we're doing is solving a problem, creating clarity on what that problem is, and confidence that we're going to be the right one to fix it. Now, if he doesn't have the budget for it, we may have to rechange, right, what the end goals are. But again, that's part of being a trusted advisor, is to be able to say, hey, unfortunately, for $100,000, there's no way we're going to be able to replace this roof. So let's help you budget for the future and use the funds that you have right now to get you X amount of years or whatever it is. That's the trusted advisor path, guys. That's building a service division. That's building more private negotiated work that's going to get you higher profits. It's going to get you happier customers. And at the end of the day, it's going to get them calling you to be able to solve their problems. And that's what you want. You want to be able to solve a problem or help them get to their goal, because at that point, you're no longer a roofing contractor. You're now a trusted advisor, an asset to the business. Anything you want to add to that, David?
Nope, that was perfect.
All right. Killed it. So unfortunately, we're only 4 minutes off, guys. We're doing awesome. Here's my request to you guys. So a couple different things. I'm going to go back. I'm going to challenge you guys in your book of business. Go through it. Let's talk about checkpoint 1. So checkpoint 1 inside here. Do they know why they scheduled the meeting? Ask yourself these questions. Don't assume, right? Was it clearly communicated in the opportunity that you have in your book of business? So go into opportunities. Go into quoted, because if it's quoted, it means that they have a proposal that they have not yet awarded to you. There is only 2 places that thing can go. It can go dead or it can go awarded. It can't go anywhere else. And that's our goal. As blunt as it can be, guys, our goal is to be able to get that thing to dead or get it to sold. Now, we want to go to sold. Dead is not a bad thing. Let me make that really clear. In all of my book of businesses, dead is not a bad thing. Dead allows you to be able to refocus that attention, whether it be an email, a phone call, whatever follow-up, that they're not responding to you. That's just an opportunity for you to redirect that time, that energy, that effort into someone who truly fits these 3 checkpoints, the 3 Ds. Okay. So this is my challenge to you guys.
Figure out why it's dead, right? Like that's the key that you're about to go through. You figure out why it's dead if you didn't think it should be. Where did you get misaligned? Where did the 2 degrees of separation start? So every dead deal should be a learning opportunity for you, right? As well as everybody that's currently in your pipe. So sorry, Chad, I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that.
No, that's fine, because that's where David is. He's my accountability partner, guys. So he'll challenge me with those same questions. You need that person, right? If it's a sales manager, if it's a sales rep that works with you, you need that individual to be able to work through this stuff, because doing it yourself doesn't allow you to be able to have the same amount of accountability as somebody else who's going to challenge you with it. So do they know why they scheduled the meeting? Was that clear inside the meeting that they had one? Were all the decision makers present, or are you sitting there looking at an opportunity, knowing that your client took it to someone else and he's not giving you an answer because he's waiting for someone else to make a decision? That's a problem, guys. Have they tried to solve this inside the past and failed? If they have, and you don't know what they did, go back in. The job's not done. It's not dead yet. Go back in and ask that question. That can be an awesome way for you guys to follow up with an existing opportunity and just say, hey, I've been thinking a lot about the work that we did. Can you talk me through maybe some of the stuff that you did, or can you share some of the supporting documents for the work that they did inside the past? It's only awkward if you make it awkward, guys, because if you're trying to solve a problem and create a customized solution, that can be the difference from you guys getting the job and not getting the job. And then finally, are they clear on the worst possible outcomes? Pay attention to that. Did you talk about the worst possible outcomes? I'm going to assume most all of you did not, because that is an awkward and weird question. It's only awkward if you make it awkward. Put it into your book of business, or put it into the questions that you ask, guys. Be inquisitive. All right, so talk to me. We've had some rain that went through the area over the last few weeks, and I can only assume that you had leaks in the building, right? Yeah. I haven't got the proposal awarded yet. We're still looking at it. Say, okay, so what's happening? I mean, you got water coming into the building. How are you guys dealing with that? I'm not trying to sell a proposal. I'm trying to understand what his environment is, because if his environment is not bad enough for him to be able to spend money to fix it, he may never award the job, guys. This is my challenge to you. Do they need to act? Go through your existing book of business, figure this out. If you don't have the answers, go back in, make the phone call, ask the question. The job is not done. The opportunity is not done until it's marked dead or sold.
Yep.
So we can go into more of this, but this is my challenge to you guys. Do this, get it done. Trust me, it'll get you closer to that finish line than probably anything else, any blank phone calls, blank emails, anything else. Ask the questions that were missed. That's my challenge to you guys. My request is join the Facebook group. I opened it up, guys. We're posting to it. I'm streaming on it right now. Hopefully it's going to be a lot more active. And I say hopefully because LinkedIn's a great platform. I love everybody that's on there. But the amount of people that we can get engaged and the amount of salesmen, sales reps, sales leaders, all that kind of different stuff, obviously a much bigger and more active platform on a day-to-day basis. So my goal is to be able to keep pushing data there, keep pushing information, get a massive group of people who just love sales, love service, and have a good time. So if you guys haven't joined it yet, scan the QR code. I'll keep it up there for a few more minutes, and hit me up. I'd be happy to share with you the perfect buyer's journey if you want to take that, and whatever we can do to be able to raise that floor, guys. That's our goal. Not raise the bar, make it further for everyone to jump, but raise that floor. This has been No Reps, guys. Thank you. We're actually done at 4:00 Eastern, 3 Central, 2, 1, wherever you're at. But cool. All right, guys.
Thanks,
David,
guys.
anything to end with?
Nope, that was perfect. We're on time. Let's keep it that way. And now we're a minute over. Damn.
Oh, all right. Well, you know what? I fulfilled what I normally do, which is going late. Thank you, guys. Have a good one. Talk next week.
See you guys.